This is Get Real with Jim Weiss. I'm so happy to keep it real with Kate. We're going to get into it today on a number of topics related to the most important muscle in the body, the heart.
Well, Jim, that was something else. Lee is next level accomplished. Wow.
Well, you know what I love about him, and I feel akin, he just comes to everything with such a positivity. Just his attitude is what I think sets him apart. It's optimistic, it's positive. He gets communications, he understands that. And look, I say leadership is communications, communications is leadership, and he's great at putting the message across. So I think watching what he's doing in these two worlds, right, the for-profit, non-profit, is kind of exciting and interesting.
It's fascinating. I mean, these health startups wouldn't exist without VC funding. I'm wondering, because you've known him for so long, has he always been an investor and a leader who's focused on health tech and on the consumer?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Livongo and Allscripts, they changed the game. They were the more unicorny first things. But unlike in tech, where we saw such immense impact, healthcare's just gone slower. But it is really on the cusp. I've never felt more like it's going to really change than I do now.
It's almost like there is a tie between this wave of personalized healthcare and VC. It's just power to the individual, whether it's the startup or the pursuit of a virtual doctor. There's some intersection going on.
And you and I are bringing those people on, and it made me think, we've got to get more and more people tuning into us with the goal that if they hear this or they hear that, they connect those things.
Well, I'm grateful that I got a chance to even meet Lee. So thank you for that. And tune in. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, let's do it. There's nothing more important than your health, but probably nothing more important than your heart health. It's the number one. It's that muscle feeds it all.
Without a doubt.
Jim, thanks so much for asking me to do this. This is really fun.
Well, I'm psyched. Yeah, any excuse to talk to you and catch up. I have such a long history personally with the Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, and so many, because I started my career at Genentech in the 90s working on TPA for heart attack and stroke and working with the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. And there's just so much new tech and everything, and that aligns with all the millions of things that you do. So I just thought it'd be a timely conversation with the rise of the GLP-1s. And I just went on Repatha, and I had my own various forms of plaque testing done. So all that was important. So Lee, welcome to Get Real. Really, your career has so many touch points, but throughout what seems central is you bridge business and philanthropy. Clearly, we have a lot of big stuff to cover. You're a change maker. I guess the question is, how do you do all the things you do, especially now taking on this chairman job? Or should I say, why do you do it all? Maybe it's more a better question.
Jim, thanks so much for having me on Get Real. And I love the question because what I do isn't really work. Someone once said that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And for me, the ability to work with founders, to help build companies, it's a privilege, and we have the opportunity to sit with them at the beginning of what is a tremendous journey that hopefully is changing lives. You recall that, we invest only in healthcare, and it's a place where you can do well by doing good. And so we have that double bottom line to what it is we do. So that inspires me on the day-to-day work, and then my philanthropic work with the American Heart Association in many ways is an extension of that, because they've been a leader for over 100 years in helping to improve lives with a vision of removing heart disease and stroke as a cause of death in this country and around the world, and allowing everyone to live better and healthier lives.
What drew you to? I mean, I assume you were involved with them before, right?
So we've been involved first as volunteers in heart walks, and then attending heart balls. We sponsored heart balls for our companies and various offices that we were in around the world. And at one point in time, I had joined a board. I was serving on an advisory board for Qualcomm and sat next to the CEO of the American Heart Association, Nancy Brown. She's an amazing human being. She's a force of nature, tremendous level of energy, and also great devotion to the mission. And as I learned more about it from her, I got more and more involved and ultimately was invited to join the national board.
Congrats. And I'm so glad you're there. What do you think your discipline brings to it? How will you potentially help shift or change the way AHA might approach or think about things?
As an organization now in its 101st year that has been serving the community for as long as they have, you evolve with the times. We have tens of millions of volunteers around the country that every day are doing some of the great work, whether it's in schools or hospitals, whether it's scientists who are doing research or people who are staffing various events. And I think it's being in tune with what some of the needs are and how science evolves that allows an organization like ours to maintain its relevancy under current circumstances. This coming weekend, we have the Super Bowl of Science going to New Orleans. It's called the AHA Scientific Sessions. There'll be 10,000 plus cardiologists there, researchers from all over the world, leading life sciences companies and medical device companies, all showcasing some of the great science that they're bringing forward to help save lives. And what we've done through providing funding since 1949, we've funded over $6 billion for research. And you start to see the fruits of that research coming forward when you attend these types of events. So it's very exciting, but that research evolves. We're always looking for new and exciting scientists that we can back and bring their advances forward into the market. And that's what allows us to continue to serve the way we have.
Well, you've been funding grants, like you said, for so long. There's an AHA Ventures, right? Which sounds similar to what the Cancer Society did. How long has that been around and how does that work?
AHA Ventures is an oversight board that I serve on in my role. And it really sits on top of 4 different funds. Each have had their own evolution. The first is called Cardiation Capital, really focused more on medical device and life science. We have been involved in that with other funders like Philips and UPMC, RTC Ventures that have provided backing along with the Heart Association, and we co-invest together. That's been involved for, I'd say, close to 10 years. We also have a group of social impact funds. The best of those known is the Bernard J. Tyson Social Impact Fund. And we have other funds in a variety of cities that are doing great work backing social entrepreneurs through grants, but also through investments, sometimes as loans, where we work with them to help make a difference in the community. The newest additions to that is the Go Red for Women Fund that's been in existence for a little over a year. Of the $40+ billion that's been invested in healthcare venture funds, only 2% of that went to women's health. And what we're trying to change is the focus around women's health through the Go Red for Women Fund. The Heart Association is the first major nonprofit to step into venture at such scale. And what we're doing is we're trying to back science into solutions that can be brought to market to help impact the trajectory of health, especially when you think about the disproportionate impact that women face when it comes to heart disease and stroke.
Well, it sounds like you're bringing the 7-wire ethos to this big org, right? This big, wonderful historical org that's done so much. I mean, it's hard to argue with the impact AHA has had. So you focus more on trials that test different things in women and men. I mean, what's the general focus of that Go Red fund?
Yeah. So really, when you start thinking about the fact that women are probably 7 times more likely than men to have a heart condition misdiagnosed. So we focus on the fact that women are different than men. Women are not little men. And so when we look at congestive heart failure, you need to understand those differences and bring that science into practice with solutions that can help treat it differently. So we do look at things that can be done differently and also areas where women are impacted disproportionately. 20% of women between the ages of 55 and 75 are in danger of having a stroke. Women are more likely to have autoimmune conditions that can lead to heart disease. When you think about the fact that women account for 66% of people living in the U.S. with Alzheimer's, we try to work on areas where women are also disproportionately impacted. And then, of course, there are things that happen exclusively to women, like menopause and PCOS and preeclampsia and endometriosis. And so we look to invest in solutions that improve access, diagnosis, and treatment for women in large, accessible markets, total addressable markets that are large. And when we look at the areas that we work in, we think kind of broadly because it's a whole health approach. It's mental health and physical health. So when you start dealing with these various disorders, there's a lot of targets for us that go beyond where kind of traditional femtech or reproductive health have been.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's also very heart related.
Well, what we want to do is make sure that everything we do is rooted in science and that we have the ability to build companies. And in fact, one of the areas, Jim, that I didn't mention, kind of the fourth pillar of HA Ventures is called Studio Red. So we will also have an accelerator that will help spawn companies in areas where we see white space and an opportunity to build a company that could help address some of these challenges that may not be viable in the market today, but where we see the science can now be put into practice and build a company around it.
Is cardiovascular science keeping up with AI, for example? Or I'll tell you, I just had the Clearly test. So that is an AI-driven test. Where is cardiovascular science going with respect to AI?
It's great that you asked. Just in July, we made grants totaling $12 million to 3 separate research teams looking at AI approaches to advance cardiovascular and brain health. And we're focusing on using AI to take the image that Dr. James Min and the team at Clearly did for you and analyze those images to see if we can't detect heart disease more rapidly and use information that may have fallen off the shelf, so to speak, left on the cutting room floor, and use that information to better diagnose heart disease. We're also looking at, through the AI grants, predictive modeling to better understand what we know about data about you from your lab tests and your diagnoses to model whether or not you're likely to have heart disease and to more personalized care. What we think is that AI isn't going to replace doctors, but AI, when used by doctors, will replace those doctors who aren't using AI. And you need to have kind of a human-centered approach to make sure that you're building the AI in the right way. We're going to release some standards, ethical standards-based ways for using AI. And AI is kind of happening right now, and we're starting to look at ways that we can be using it responsibly to help direct research and make sure that it's being put into practice.
You're investing at the intersection and have been at healthcare and tech. Which of your consumer health investments right now excites you the most? This space is so incredibly exciting and hot. I wear my Oura Ring and my Apple Watch, and I have so many things telling me what to do.
Jim, we have over 20 portfolio companies. We're on our 4th fund, and I have to say I love all my children equally. So when I speak about a few of them, we don't have enough time on Get Real. I'll have to come back again and talk about more of them. But a few of the companies that I'm excited about, you had mentioned that you're taking a GLP-1. What we know about GLP-1s is that it's an amazing new class of drugs that is helping people not only to lose weight, but there's now demonstrated positive effects on heart disease and on other conditions as well. And it's not just from losing weight, but independently from losing the weight, there are also some benefits from a cardiovascular standpoint. And what we've done is help build a company called 9am Health that surrounds an individual with the right types of resources that they need in order to manage their life taking these types of medications. 9am is partnered with Lilly to provide Lilly Direct and Novo to provide Novo Direct. So they're direct-to-consumer sites.
Oh, that's good that they're with both. Okay, cool.
And what you're able to do there is you meet with a pharmacist, you meet with a clinician, and then we provide support that involves nutritional support with a dietitian. It involves clinical support with regard to your side effects, and also helps you manage some of the behavioral change that you need to make, because you don't want to think of a GLP-1 as being that silver bullet where you still come home at night and drink a 6-pack and eat a bag of Doritos. Second company I'll mention is called Payzen. And the setup here is that medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in the U.S. And most individuals don't have $500 saved for a medical emergency. Payzen works with leading health systems like Common Spirit and Geisinger, Endeavor Health here in the Chicago area. They provide a zero-interest loan to any individual who presents at the point of care that needs support to pay for their out-of-pocket medical expenses. And with more and more people having high deductible health plans, there's a big burden associated with those costs. And in working with these health systems, Payzen finds ways to allow them to afford care that they might otherwise defer. And we know that when people are deferring care, they're going to end up being sicker and present in a condition that is going to be even more costly than if they had done some of the preventative care that they need. So we're trying to get out in front of that problem and work with people to make sure that healthcare can be affordable. And the third one I'll mention is Transcarent. Transcarent is helping to address the confusion that exists in healthcare. Right now, care is just too costly, too confusing, and people have so many questions about what do they do for themselves or a loved one when they don't feel well. Transcarent provides the tools to help navigate people and get them the answers that they need, mostly working with large self-insured employers, 1,800 of them across the U.S., many of the brand names that you would know, including some of the appliances that you're wearing. Their teams are working with Transcarent to help address these challenges. And what you're basically able to do is, through the work that they're doing across the country with their national provider network, is direct people to sites of care where they can get high quality service, that's first and foremost, at prices that are meaningfully reduced to the employer, because they're now directing a number of groups to get care at these various organizations. They do that across surgical care and oncology care. They're doing it for pharmacy benefits. They're saving employers meaningful amounts of money in terms of helping to reduce the burden of employers that are trying to do the right thing for their employees, but they're faced with 15, 18, 20% increases in their healthcare costs. And now you have companies like GM who say, we're a healthcare company that happens to make automobiles, because there's so much of the cost.
I've been there as a larger employer. Yeah, I get it.
They're spending more on healthcare than they are on steel. And so what you need to do is find ways to help reduce that burden. And that's where Transcarent steps in to work with employers.
Well, I've heard about them, so they must be moving and shaking. You obviously helped pioneer all this through your original work at Allscripts and Livongo. What did you learn there that's informing now?
What we learned, Allscripts was more focused inside the four walls of hospitals and doctors' offices. And we learned that even great technology is not going to be successful unless you can find a way to fit into the workflow and partner with providers in being able to use that technology to improve care of their patients. And the other lesson we learned there is that so much of where health occurs is outside of the doctor's office. Health is something that we aspire to every day. And so if we're going to find ways to keep people healthy, as we did at Livongo, when people are testing for their blood sugar and they're looking at what their numbers are telling them on their glucometer, how do you give them advice in the moment to get in range and to stay in range so that they don't become hyper or hypoglycemic, too high or too low with their blood sugar and end up in the emergency room? And we were successfully giving people support and guidance when they needed it around the numbers that they were seeing on a daily basis, because they needed someone to be their guardian angel and work with them to support their healthcare needs. Many of our companies provide that same model, which is first, create a great, compelling consumer experience. Second, measurably, demonstrably improve outcomes of care. And third, do it at a price point that delivers a return on investment to who's ever at risk for the cost of care: the government, self-insured employer, health plan, at-risk medical group. And if you can do those things, you can build successful businesses in this space. I think all of us as consumers of healthcare would prefer not to consume any healthcare. What we want, the job that we want healthcare to do, is to be healthy.
Stay out of the system. That's my big message on this podcast. Stay away. Like, you got to prevent the events. You just don't want to go there.
Jim, you're so right. And so if we're going to do that, technology provides a big part of that solution.
Are we going to just see more in wearables than ever? I mean, you were at the forefront of all this.
I think that, the challenge that's existed with wearables is the value that they deliver to the user on a day-to-day basis. There were many step trackers that came out, and people were trying to walk their 10,000 steps a day, and they'd have the device for few months and then they'd forget to recharge it and it would end up in a drawer and it just wasn't giving enough value. And I think what makes Oura Rings and Whoop bands and your Apple Watch and my Garmin watch and these other tools so compelling is that they're helping to provide ongoing guidance as your body's vital narrative kind of changes and you're giving new information. The more you can pair information about what types of conditions did you have and what are your lab tests showing, and the more integrated all that information becomes, now the advice that you can get is even better than it was before. That's where, back to our earlier discussion around artificial intelligence, the ability to integrate and provide insights from data is going to continue to expand in a meaningful way. And I think that these tools, I believe Aura and Whoop have both provided AI coaches.
They have. Yeah, no, I get coached.
And that coaching is what gives you the motivation to continue to wear it and to charge it, because you're saying, I'm getting something that's really valuable feedback from that. And that's that great consumer experience that I was talking about as a key element of building a successful company, because you'll continue to use it if you see value. Once the value stops, you're going to put it on the shelf and you'll go to the next thing.
Right. That's true. Although I've worn this one a long time. Plus, it's a reminder, when you wear rings like this, I know they do that in AA and stuff. When you have that touchstone, it kind of reminds you to, oh, right, I'm supposed to make the numbers on this look better than they have, especially around sleep. I want to talk about two areas, sleep, but more importantly, mental health. Are you guys investing in anything interesting in and around mental health?
We have.
Because that's another area to prevent.
And let me say that mental health is a key component of most of the companies that we invest in, because we do have this whole health framework. It's very hard to address. For example, we have a company that focuses on oncology care navigation services. The mental health component in terms of helping an individual who's addressing a cancer diagnosis is pretty significant. It's not a behavioral health company, but behavioral health is integrated in everything we do. We have another company that helps individuals who are living with chronic pain. It's not just about prescribing medications. It's about diet, nutrition, exercise, and the mental health component. How do you respond to pain signals? And what can you do to change the way your brain is wired to respond to that? There's a behavioral health component. In addition, we have a company called NOCD, NOCD, that's focused in the severe mental illness space, helping individuals get diagnosed and treated more quickly when they present with OCD. And the average time from onset of symptoms to diagnosis has been close to 7 years. We're moving that back to 7 months with our company and getting people into the flow more quickly so that they don't spiral towards behaviors that might lead to a dangerous situation. That company is also working now in post-traumatic stress disorder and eating disorders and other mental illness conditions to provide people with support, therapy, and treatment that can be done from the convenience of their home and on their phone or on their computer, with exercises that can be doing to kind of stay in control and better manage their health. We too long in this country separated behavioral health from physical health. It needs to come together in a way that these companies are now doing.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you one last venture question, but with NIH and some of the other areas, under, I think, challenge, and I think some of it's quite appropriate. So I don't want to make it sound like I don't believe we shouldn't be prudent in how we spend government money on research. That's important. Do you see VCs leading a larger share of healthcare R&D in the future as a result, or the same? Doesn't really change much? What are you guys seeing? Are more guys coming to you?
It's really hard to fill the gap left by the shortfall now in NIH funding. As we were talking about all the research, the billions in research that we funded at the Heart Association, in the nonprofit world, the American Heart Association is the NIH for cardiovascular science. And so philanthropic organizations are going to fill some of the gap. Venture will fill some of the gap. As you've seen in the biotech market, it's pretty challenged right now.
It's super challenged, yeah.
And NIH funding allowed us to be the leader in terms of scientific advances. And from a competitive standpoint, I think we need a robust funding platform at the NIH level that will allow us to maintain that edge that we've had in the world for so many years. There will be industry. I think life sciences industry will step in with some additional funding there, but it's going to take a village in order to make up for the shortfall that comes from NIH. We just can't do it through venture alone.
We need to make sure everyone's listening, in the government to get real. I mean, I made the points to anyone I can talk to, but we got to go storm the hill and make sure they get this one right going forward. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other things ahead of that have come up with the shutdown. But the point is, I do think our government does position us as a leader in the world, and we want to stay there.
Exactly right. And I think that there is alignment on the fact that we want the United States to continue to be a leader in scientific advances. And if we're going to make that happen, we have to not only fund research, but we have to encourage global research leaders to want to be in the United States to conduct that research and not do it elsewhere.
So moving away from 7Wire and all the things with AHA, you're board member of the World Innovation Network, the University of Chicago Innovation Fund, Samsung's Digital Advisory Board. Are there any game changers in health or health tech brewing from that work that you're doing?
Part of the work that I've done, and some of those I had been on and had moved off of over the years, but what I'd say is that the ideas that surface in these types of forums, and I'll give you just a shout out to the World Innovation Network. It is a group of leaders from a variety of industries that come together and exchange ideas. So when you hear what leaders at Herman Miller are thinking of when they're talking about furniture design and how they are thinking about health of individuals, that leads you to start thinking differently from a healthcare perspective. Or what people who are thinking about changes in Verizon and how they're thinking about connectivity, the way in which they're looking at new ways of connectivity and how do you bridge gaps in connectivity can also lead to changes in health. What I'd say the areas that are really exciting that are coming forward are the advances that are happening in personalizing healthcare. How are we able to share data securely in a way that allows for better information so that you have a certain set of attributes that you bring to a situation? We can't necessarily treat you the same way. And Jim, again, with all the years you've been in life sciences, it's amazing to me that we say to people, everybody takes this particular dose of medication, you take it at this time of the day, and you take it with this food, or maybe you take it before food or after food. Your metabolism works differently than mine. Maybe the way in which you need to take medication should be, I'm going to alternate your dose during the course of the day. There's adherence issues that kind of create complexities there, but to make the medication work for you differently, there might need to be a personalized regime and there might need to be a personalized dose for you. We're going to get to the point where those doses can be delivered to you in your home in the right amount at the right time based on what the data is saying about your health. And I think that's really exciting in terms of what we're going to see going forward.
It's so funny, it's always been all about the data. You have to follow the data to get to the right outcome. This is all stuff I learned at Genentech in 92, and it's all still true now, maybe more than ever, with so much of it.
And yet, I've had senior executives at large global life sciences companies say that every day there are millions of people who are taking their medications and they know nothing about. And so these direct-to-consumer offerings, these wearables, the surround the pill strategy with services that help enhance the treatment offered by that medication will allow for life sciences companies to have better insights that will allow them to personalize treatments in a different way. And so these technologies kind of coming together with the molecule as well as the technology could lead to some really exciting breakthroughs going forward for improvement of health.
Well, thanks for being a pioneer for so long to make that reality happen. I think we're going to see it in the next few years. So we'll drop the mic on that one. I wanted to ask you a question about mentorship and entrepreneurship because we both share that and they go hand in hand. There's always people to help us get where we are. Who are your mentors? Who inspired you to go this route?
Well, I have to say first and foremost was my dad. He's no longer with us, but he was an entrepreneur. He started his own business. And from him, I learned the importance of listening to the customer, understanding what their needs are. There's so much benefit in that. When I mentor people, I talk about the importance of getting out from behind the desk, being with customers and selling. And every job and every company we back, we say everybody sells because you learn so much by being a great listener. The old adage, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so double the amount of listening and, reduce the amount of talking. And that was a great lesson from my dad. And as he built his business into what became globally recognized in the small field that he was in, it was because of the attention he paid to detail, the focus he had on the customer experience, the high degree of service that he gave. And that's a formula that I think can work across so many businesses. And then early in my career, I'm a recovering lawyer. One of the partners at the firm I joined coming out of law school taught me the importance of paying attention to detail. And after slaving, through nights, no sleep, working on an appellate court brief and delivering a document that I think is my opus that this partner is going to use for the arguments, as he starts leafing through the pages and he finds a typo on, page 4 and says, you know what, come back to me when you can give me a document that I can trust. And it wasn't about the content. It was about paying attention to all the detail and learning that everything that you do in terms of how you present the information is important if you want to get your message across. So that was early in my career, something that I learned about making sure that you're doing things the right way and not kind of taking shortcuts in terms of the way you approach it. I'm fortunate, as I mentioned, I don't work. I love what I do, and I get to work with really exciting young founders, sometimes older founders, but young founders, and people are pursuing their dreams. Many of our founders, the founder of 9am Health, for example, started the company. He has type 1 diabetes. He wanted to help reduce the burden of cardiometabolic disease and diabetes on as many people as he could. And so he started a company with a vision. Helping him with that vision is really rewarding for me as well. The individual who started our company that's focused in cancer care, has dealt with cancer in his family and is now, this is his third oncology focused company that he's building. And every one of them, he says, I measure it in terms of if we can help save one life, if we can help one family live a little bit longer together with their loved ones, that's so rewarding. And so I love being able to share with them the mistakes that we've made building companies along the way. And we've made plenty. Sometimes they want to make them on their own. That's okay. But if we can help them avoid a couple and speed up the time that they can get these solutions to market and help people, that's great.
We got to keep connecting the dots, bro. No doubt about it. I'm so glad to be working. I'm glad we're connected again here. I always ask the question, if you're going to a desert island and you could only bring one album, what would it be?
Katie lied, Steely Dan.
Okay, wow. Is that, I think that's the second Steely Dan reference we've had in a while, right? I mean, that one, okay. I love Steely Dan. So yeah, how about your dream vacation? Do you take vacations? I guess you do.
Happy place is at the beach, and I love going out for a long run on the beach and the like. So give me a good beach someplace and hard-packed sand.
Well, don't you have one on Lake Michigan? I thought you did.
And I'm happy. No, our beaches aren't so, we're pretty like narrow beaches, and what little beach we have here is pretty soft sand. So I need a good hard-packed sand and a nice place to go running, and that would be great. But Jim, I'm curious, your favorite album, what would you take?
Well, I've said this, so it's a toss-up, right? But I think probably at the end of the day, I would bring Europe 72 and the Grateful Dead. So it's going to be something Grateful Dead. The other one that I used to think would be fun to have just because, you could dance around on the beach and stuff was Madonna's Immaculate Conception. That whole compendium album of hers.
Classic.
A real classic. So I don't know. I always want to take a couple things, and I have this crazy wide range of things that I like. I love Steely Dan too. So anyway, can't wait to see you in Chicago soon.
Looking forward to seeing you, Jim. Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Appreciate you. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on the Get Real podcast. I hope you feel a little healthier hanging out with me. It's going to be a lot of fun passing this along to others. Please subscribe below. Please share. I'm excited not just to talk about healthcare, but a lot of other fun topics. It's about making healthy talk about healthcare. It's not a lecture. This is supposed to be fun, and look forward to spending more time with you in the future.